Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radhe Shyam, Jaya Radhe Shyam, Lalita Vishakha, Jaya Radhe Shyam. Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram. Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Pariyojakacharya Ashtottara Sarashri Srimad His Divine Grace Abhay Charan Aravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Pariyojakacharya Ashtottara Sarashri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Samaveda Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Nitai Gaur Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Narayan Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudhirayat Nashtabraya Shabadeshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Utamashloker Bhakti Bhavati Naishtikir. Reading from Bhagavad-Gita as it is. Chapter 9, the most confidential knowledge. Text number 5. Nacha mat-sthāni bhūtāni paśya me yogam aiśvaram bhūta-bhṛn cha bhūta-sthaḥ mamātmā bhūta-bhāvanaḥ nacha mat-sthāni bhūtāni paśya me yogam aiśvaram bhūta-bhṛn cha bhūta-stho mamātmā bhūta-bhāvanaḥ nacha mat-sthāni bhūtāni paśya me yogam aiśvaram bhūta-bhṛn cha bhūta-stho mamātmā bhūta-bhāvanaḥ. Please repeat. Na, never. Cha, also. Mat-sthāni, situated in me. Bhūtāni, all creation. Paśya, just see. Me, my. Yogam, aiśvaram, inconceivable mystic power. Bhūta-bhṛt, the maintainer of all living entities. Na, never. Cha, also. Bhūta-sthaḥ, in the cosmic manifestation. Mama, my. Ātmā, self. Bhūta-bhāvanaḥ, the source of all manifestations. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jai. Translation. And yet everything that is created does not rest in me. Behold my mystic opulence. Although I am the maintainer of all living entities, and although I am everywhere, I am not a part of this cosmic manifestation, for myself is the very source of creation. Purport. The Lord says that everything is resting on Him. Mat-sthāni sarva bhūtāni. This should not be misunderstood. The Lord is not directly concerned with the maintenance and sustenance of this material manifestation. Sometimes we see a picture of Atlas holding the globe on his shoulders. He seems to be very tired, holding this great earthly planet. Such an image should not be entertained in connection with Krishna upholding this created universe. He says that although everything is resting on Him, He is aloof. The planetary systems are floating in space, and this space is the energy of the Supreme Lord. But He is different from space. He is differently situated. Therefore, the Lord says, although they are situated on my inconceivable energy, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I am aloof from them. This is the inconceivable opulence of the Lord. In the Nirukti Vedic dictionary, it is said, Yujyate nena durghateshu karyeshu. The Supreme Lord is performing inconceivably wonderful pastimes, displaying His energy. His person is full of different potent energies, and His determination is itself actual fact. In this way, the personality of Godhead is to be understood. We may think of doing something, but there are so many impediments, and sometimes it is not possible to do as we like. But when Krishna wants to do something, simply by His willing, everything is performed so perfectly that one cannot imagine how it is being done. The Lord explains this fact. Although He is the maintainer and sustainer of the entire material manifestation, He does not touch this material manifestation. Simply by His supreme will, everything is created, everything is sustained, everything is maintained, and everything is annihilated. There is no difference between His mind and Himself, as there is a difference between ourselves and our present material mind, because He is absolute spirit. Simultaneously, the Lord is present in everything, yet the common man cannot understand how He is also present personally. He is different from this material manifestation, yet everything is resting on Him. This is explained here as yogam aiśvaram, the mystic power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Ajnanatimmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti-vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatharine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So Krishna is speaking. When Krishna was speaking to Nanda Maharaj, when they were going to do the worship for Indra, when he was convincing him that don't worship Indra, just worship Govardhan hill. Actually, Prabhupada says that the atheistic philosophy was presented by Krishna himself in that moment, because he said, why are you worshipping all these demigods? Just worship nature, worship the hill, worship matter. Obviously, Govardhan is not matter, but that's what Prabhupada says, that Krishna introduced the atheistic philosophy for the future atheist, so they have something to do. So even the atheists are actually followers of Krishna. Anyway, that's a side point. The main point is Krishna is speaking, and when Krishna is speaking, it's too loud? It's too soft? Oh. Okay. Anyway, so there was a resident of Vrindavan that was observing Krishna speak to Nanda Maharaj, and when she heard him speak, she was so much attracted to his way of speaking that she said that who will not go crazy simply hearing the words of Krishna? He is so expert at pronouncing the words very sweetly and softly, at placing the syllables in the right place and having perfect intonation and speaking in such a nice way. He's completely captivating my mind. And then she says, actually it doesn't matter what he says. He can say anything. And I will completely lose myself simply by hearing his voice. So that same Krishna is now speaking here. These are his words, composed by him, by his own mind and tongue, which is none different to him because he's absolute spirit. But here he's saying that everything is created by him, and everything is maintained by him, and everything is, sustained by him, and there would be nothing without him. Yet he's completely aloof from the material world. He's the origin, but he's not part of it. And Prabhupada says here, the Lord says that everything is resting on him. The Lord is not directly concerned with the maintenance and sustenance of the material manifestation. This is very important to know, that the Lord is not directly concerned. Concern, when you feel some concern for someone, you care about them and you consider what is happening in their lives and around them. So Krishna has no concern for this material world. Absolute truth means all aspects of everything have to be inside of him. That is why he's absolute. So even Krishna has ignorance. Krishna is ignoring this material world. Because he has to have that too. Otherwise he's not complete. But because it's connected to him, so therefore he's indirectly concerned. Not directly concerned, and he's indirectly concerned through his energies. And here Prabhupada says that we see the picture of Atlas holding the globe, and he's like straining, holding it, bending down, almost breaking his back. And Prabhupada explains how we should not entertain this idea with Krishna. Krishna is not, what is that verse? Mat-sthāni, what is it? Working hard, struggling with his senses in the Bhagavad-Gita. I'm forgetting now. Yeah, jiva bhuta sanatana, manashasthāni indriyani, prakriti sthāni karshati, right? Struggling very hard. Because this material energy is his energy. Us being parts and parcels of him, we are subject to struggling hard in this material world. But Krishna, he's completely aloof because the energy belongs to him. So all these planetary systems, they're being held in space by the energies of the Lord. So Krishna's concern for this material world is coming indirectly through his Shaktis. So the original Mula Prakriti, energy, is Radharani. She's the original energy of Krishna. There's one sentence here which was very interesting. It says that we may think of doing something. Wait, sorry, I missed it. Okay, I'll just read the whole thing. You pay attention. In the Nirukti Vedic dictionary, it is said, Yujyate nena dhurga teshu karyeshu. The Supreme Lord is performing inconceivably wonderful pastimes, displaying his energy. His person is full of different potent energies, and his determination is itself actual fact. His determination is itself actual fact. So what does that mean? That means Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, when he desires something, then he expands as energy. And then the energy, varieties of energy, create transformations for Krishna to fulfill his desires. We need transformation for rasa, for any kind of exchange of enjoyment. You need transformation. You need some change. You need something to happen. Because the Supreme Absolute Truth is one. Some people are under the impression that there is no transformation inside of him because he's one Absolute Truth. But this one Absolute Truth has so many varieties of energies inside of him. And we have to remember that the one Absolute Truth is the Supreme Enjoyer. And enjoyment comes from variety. You know, enjoyment generally, more often than not, comes at the expense of another. You know, like if I massage your back, then it causes pain to my fingers and my hands, and it causes pleasure to your back. You know, so your enjoyment of having a back massaged is at the expense of going through pain with my hand. So Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, sometimes may seem a little sadistic. He may seem like he's enjoying at the expense of everyone else's suffering. But actually, for the devotees, the pure devotees, they are enjoying when Krishna is enjoying. And because they're connected to Krishna, when Krishna is enjoying, even if it's at the expense of their suffering, due to them being connected to Krishna, they're enjoying their suffering. You know this last verse of Shikshashtakam. This is very high. Practically speaking, this is the prayojan, the goal of our Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Mahaprabhu's 8 verses. And they go through stages, and finally, the last verse is the highest stage of prema. And what is that highest stage of prema? Yatha tatha va vidadhatu lampata mat-prananatas tu saivanapara. Which means that you can do whatever you like. You can trample me, you can embrace me, you can ignore me. Whatever you do, you're still my prananat. Mat-prana natas tu saivanapara. And that will never stop. This sentence defeats Krishna. Because now Krishna is cornered. Because whatever he does will simply increase the love of their devotees, of his devotees. These words are actually being spoken by Radharani herself. These words are being spoken by Mahaprabhu, but Mahaprabhu in the mood of Radharani. So this is the ultimate Brahmastra against Krishna. And that is why Krishna in Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 10th canto, he says, Na pareham, which means I can never repay you. Because whatever I do, your love for me increases. So even if I try to repay you in any way, your love will then increase even more. And if I try to repay that, then it'll increase even more. And then if I try to repay that, it'll increase even more. So I can never actually repay you. Anyway, a little bit off track, but it's a nice track. But here, Prabhupada says, his person is full of different potent energies, and his determination is itself actual fact. In this way, the personality of Godhead is to be understood. So you understand that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, and he's determined to enjoy. His determination is very strong. And because his determination is very strong, his energies supply the enjoyment for Krishna. We are also Krishna's energy. And our position is to supply Krishna's sense gratification. In the material world, we're focusing all of our energy to supply sense gratification to ourselves, to our gross, dead senses, lump of matter, fleshy eyeballs and, meaty tongue and ears and whatnot, which we give so much importance to. And therefore, Krishna is not concerned with this material world. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the most self-centered person in existence. He's also the most selfless in existence because he's absolute. But his self-centeredness makes him ignore the material world. Because in the material world, this is a place where no one gives Krishna any attention. Ye yatam mam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajamyaham. As they surrender, I reciprocate. So, in the material world, everyone is ignoring Krishna. So therefore, in response, Krishna has no concern for those who have no concern for him. So when we come in contact with Krishna's energy, primarily his internal energy, then you come into the purview of Krishna. You come into his radar. And factually, you're not a part of this material world. Prabhupada says here that Krishna, he does not touch this material manifestation. Simply by his supreme will, everything is created, everything is sustained, everything is maintained, and everything is annihilated. He's the maintainer and the sustainer of the entire material manifestation, but he does not even touch this material manifestation. Sorry, I'm just going through this. Yeah. And then Prabhupada says, simultaneously, the Lord is present in everything. Yet, the common man cannot understand how he is also present personally. So the Lord is present everywhere. We all learned, even when we were kids, God is everywhere. But His personal presence is only in Vrindavan. And that person is the person who we're talking about when we say he is not concerned with the material world. It's the personal Krishna who's not concerned with the material world. But impersonally, his reflections are still here. It's like the sun is all the way up there in the sky, but the sun's energy is present here. And Prabhupada sometimes gives the example of having water pots with water, and the reflection of the sun is like a representation of Paramatma. And then the sun's rays is the representation of Brahman. And the personal sun is Bhagavan. But the personal sun is situated far away from here, and he's remotely, through his energies, working in the material world. So we can understand Krishna like this. The personality of Godhead is personally living only in Vrindavan, and he never actually leaves Vrindavan. When Akrura came to take Krishna from here, something very interesting happened in Akrur Ghat. You can go there, it's a very nice place. Actually, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would come to Vrindavan, Akrur Ghat would be his headquarters. He would always stay there, and he would always bathe in Akrur Ghat. So when Akrura was coming to Vrindavan, he was a devotee, no? So it says how he was meditating the whole time on Krishna's hand, Krishna's palms. Krishna's hand is like a lotus. And he was meditating that maybe if I go and if I bow down to Krishna, he will place his hand on my head. And he was just thinking of this all the way from Mathura to Vrindavan. He was thinking many other things also, but this was a very primary thing that he was thinking of, that Krishna's hand will go on my head. And he reached Vrindavan so quickly, it felt like a very, very short time. Just by thinking of Krishna's hand, so many hours just went by like an instant. And when he finally saw Krishna and Balaram, he offered them so many prayers, and they called him, into their house. They sat him down. They offered him. They washed his feet and offered him what you would offer to any guest. And Akrura was just crying actually the whole time. And on their way to Mathura, when finally they got on the chariots, you can read that section of Krishna book or Bhagavatam. It's quite intense for the residents of Vrindavan. But if you pay attention to what's happening, you will realize that Krishna never actually leaves. When Akrura was on the cart with the two boys, Krishna and Balaram, they stopped to bathe in the Yamuna. And first, Krishna and Balaram went and bathed. And after they bathed, they came, and Akrura said, I'm going to go and bathe. And they went and sat on the chariot. And then Akrura went to bathe, but while he's bathing, he sees Krishna and Balaram in the river. And he's completely bewildered that, how come they're in the river here? So they were just in the chariot. So he comes out of the river, goes to the chariot again, and he sees that they're both sitting on the chariot. And then bewildered, he goes back again to the river, and he sees that they're both also in the river. And being thoroughly confused, then he looks at Krishna and Balaram, and they start manifesting as Sankarshan and Vasudev. They start showing him these forms as Sheshnag and four-handed Narayan and whatnot. And he saw their expansions. Some people would think that he saw their original form, and the Krishna and Balaram form is an avatar of Sankarshan and Vasudeva, and now he's being compassionate and showing who he really is. But that's not true. We know that's not true. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Brajendra Nandan Krishna, and Balaram, Rohini Sutta Balaram, they never leave Vrindavan. Who left Vrindavan is Sankarshan Balaram and Vasudev Krishna. These are the two personalities that actually left Vrindavan. And this shows when Akrura saw these two forms, it was very clear. It was very clear that actually they never leave Vrindavan. So where did they go? It was very obvious that they were not there. The gopis were crying in separation. They were enacting the pastimes of the Lord, completely losing themselves, becoming, Mother Yashoda is becoming as thin, her waist is becoming as thin as a finger. You can practically pass a ring, a finger ring through her whole body. Where's Krishna? But like we said earlier, Krishna is a little bit of a sadistic person in a transcendental way. He was pushing the residents of Vrindavan to their last limit. He was squeezing out every last bit of juice because he wants to really see how far will they go. Can they ever possibly stop loving me? And it's just not possible. And in fact, in that separation, what does Prabhupada say? Prabhupada says that the residents of Vrindavan, feeling so much intense separation from Krishna, not being physically present, they took shelter of Nam. They took shelter of his pastimes. They took shelter of his form. They took shelter of his qualities. Thinking of how he speaks, thinking of how he looks, how his eyes are reddish, his palms are reddish, his feet is reddish, his lips are reddish, his palate is reddish, his navel, all these reddish lotus-like angas of his body, how his nose is long. They were so absorbed in thinking of him that it was even more union than when he was actually physically present. So it may seem like Krishna is very sadistic and he's enjoying their suffering. But because Krishna is absolute, thinking of him and being in front of him are actually non-different. They're one and the same. You could even say thinking of him is even more intense, because the feeling of him not being there intensifies it even more. So him not being there is actually more of him being there. Jiva Goswami says something really interesting. He says that if something is so cold, so extremely cold, that when you touch it, it may burn you. And he also says, if something is so extremely hot, when you initially touch it, it may feel cool. I don't know if you've experienced this. I experienced this very recently, actually. We have this oil heater. You have these oil heaters with the fins? And it was on, but it was so cold. It was like in the early morning, just after, coming from the bathroom. It was so cold that my feet were kind of a little frozen. And because my feet were frozen, I put my foot just directly on the coil. And I thought, oh, this thing is not on. It's turned off because it's so cold. Only after 2 seconds realizing that I actually, singed myself a little bit, burnt my foot a little bit, because it was actually on. It was just so hot that the initial touch felt like it was something cold. Anyway, Jiva Goswami says this. Even in the intense summer, now there's not so much sand. The Raman Reti, the Reti becomes very hot. The sand becomes really, really hot. And I've experienced in the peak of summer, when the sun's hitting the sand, when you step on the sand, initially it kind of feels cold, but then you realize very quickly that it's actually hot. So why does Jiva Goswami say this? He says this to explain that Krishna's absence, in the intensity of his absence, is actually his presence. And the example that he quotes to explain this is, he says, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a form of intense separation, of extreme separation. But what is this form of extreme separation? It is a form of Krishna and Radharani combined together. So due to them being so intensely together, it's become an intense mood of separation. For like we just spoke about earlier, enjoyment generally comes at the expense of another. But it's a reciprocal relationship. We just had Jayadev Goswami's disappearance day a few days ago. And we know how he, in his meditation, while he's writing Gita Govinda, right? He sees Krishna putting his head on Radharani's feet. He sees, and when he sees that, he's not able to write it down. Because, no, how can I do this? He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I cannot write this. And he leaves it. He leaves it there. And Krishna himself personally comes in the form of Jayadev Goswami and writes that Dehi Tava Padava Pallavam Udaram, right? That. So, although he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he bows down too. And that's how sweet Krishna is. Try and understand that whatever he does, at the end of the day, he's only sweet. It's only sweetness. As intense as it may be, as difficult to digest as it may be, it is only sweet. That's only Brajendra Nandan Krishna. That's only Krishna in Vrindavan. Not the Krishna that sat on the chariot with Akrura and left Vrindavan. That Krishna is going around killing demons, speaking Bhagavad-Gita. Yes, nice. He's going out to do the preaching work. He's the Goshti Anandi. But the Bhajana Anandi Krishna is here in Vrindavan. So we should, one who's doing bhajan, he really knows himself fully. So we come to Vrindavan to meet this Krishna. To meet this Krishna who knows himself fully. Who's completely sold out to the residents of Vrindavan. And we can simply hear him speak. Here he's speaking Bhagavad-Gita, but we should endeavor to hear more and more and more. Even more, there's so much more. There's the whole Bhagavatam, there's the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita. We should desire to have such an intense relationship with Krishna where he can personally speak with us. Prabhupada has said that, as you advance in Krishna consciousness, you can see Krishna face to face. And you can speak to him just like I am speaking to you. Our founder Acharya said that, which means it's possible. Come to the platform where Krishna is personally speaking to us with his own mouth and his own tongue. But we're, in one sense, I don't know about all of you, but I definitely don't see Krishna as physical presence, apart from the deities, of course. I mean, he's very much present there. And deity worship is very nice for this reason. But outside of that, most of us are in the same position as the Brajabasis when Krishna left Vrindavan. And now our only resolve is to just speak about him. Speak about his Naam, Guna, Rupa, Leela. Primarily Naam in this age. And he descends down and you can experience. Experience burns brighter than imagination. You come to our temple room in the evening, in the morning, anytime, 24 hours a day. And you really cry out. Cry in this way. If you're not able to feel separation, you think of the residents of Vrindavan. You try and put your feet in their shoes. Try and appreciate what they were feeling. To appreciate what they were feeling, we have to read Srimad Bhagavatam. Specifically the 10th canto. Obviously, after going through the systematic process of all the other 9 cantos. But our prayojana is the 10th canto and the first part of the 10th canto. That is what all of our acharyas are pointing to, and that is where all of our acharyas have come from. Jai. Is there any questions? Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you for a nice class. Prabhu, you said that, it's written there that Krishna is not concerned.
Krishna is what?
Krishna is not concerned.
Yeah, directly.
Directly.
Prabhupada is saying, not me.
Yes. Actually, also his love for us, because he doesn't want to interfere with the freedom of will that he's given us. So it's not that he's not concerned, but we have told we want to enjoy the material world. And he says, okay, I'm just going to be hands off. And, I've provided all the systems and energies and everything for you to enjoy. And I'm not going to come in the way of your enjoyment. You have the full freedom to do. But you'll be responsible for your actions, words and deeds like that. So actually it's another way of looking at it. And the next thing you mentioned, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that love in separation is the highest. So Krishna arranges for that for his highest devotees, the gopis and everyone. And in a way, we also, like at least the residents of Vrindavan had seen Krishna's childhood, at least until he was 10, 11, and then he left. Then they didn't see him. But we have, I don't know, I'm speaking for myself, maybe lifetimes and lifetimes of separation, totally forgotten Krishna, and now Srila Prabhupada introduces him to us. This is not separation, but I have nothing to work on, You have to really dig deep to remember Krishna every time, to, sort of remember him, think of him like that. Just sharing some thoughts.
Jai.
Thanks, Prabhuji, for a very nice lecture. Just want some bit clarification.
Sorry, I cannot.
I just want a bit clarification.
Clarification.
As on one hand you say it's Krishna's desire, because of Krishna's desire, this material world is created, then maintained, and then annihilated. And on the other hand, you also say that he has no concern for this material world. So how does these two things go in hand? Because finally Krishna is taking care of all the living entities, isn't it? So only when concern is there, the desire to serve will be there.
The person is, sorry?
When the concern is there,
then
the desire to serve will be there.
Yeah.
And he is serving in one way.
Yeah.
Whether it is indirectly or directly, what it is. So how you...
But that makes a huge difference. Indirectly and directly are two very different things. If you want to meet the Prime Minister, let's say, but you're not qualified, so you only meet his representative. So in one sense, yes, you met him, the message will go to him, but it's still not the same as meeting the Prime Minister directly. They're two very different things. So, this whole purport is basically answering your question. It says that Krishna is not directly concerned, and even this word, yogam, aiśvaram, that this is his mystic potency, that he creates the whole material world, he maintains it, but he has nothing to do with it personally. It's just channels, different channels that work in this material world. Yes, they're fulfilling our petty desires, but it's just not.
He remains aloof from it, that's one thing, but he is very much concerned.
Indirectly. That makes a huge difference. He's indirectly concerned. Personally, he's not. You know what the truth is? The truth is that Radharani is so attractive, she's captured his mind to such an unimaginable degree that he cannot think of anything else. That is the truth. That is the reality of life. So if you want to come into his concern, his those horses, what do they wear? Blinders. That's what Krishna's got. He's got blinders with Radharani in front of him. So if you want to come into that purview of his concern, you become a servant of Radharani. And by becoming a servant of Radharani, then he's going to directly be concerned with you. That's the basic gist of the whole thing.
Thank you.
Jai. Okay, all right. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad-Gita ki Jai.